Hello beautiful internet family, Dan here from danstube.tv, and it's that time again. It's drone time, and it's 8 months on from my original review of the Mini 2. Now, is this drone still worth your time? We've had a lot of other drones released since then, and should you care about the Mini 2? Should you hold out and see what else comes out? Or is the Mini 2 your go-to drone for something portable and capable? Now, like I said, it's been 8 months since I originally checked out the Mini 2. There haven't been any major updates. So with other DJI drones, they'll add brand new features, all these new exciting things after a product has been released. And recently that hasn't really been the case with DJI drones. They release the product, you may get like a tiny tweak, a tiny update, and something small, but not so much with the Mini 2. Now, seeing as it's been 8 months since this drone came out, have there been any major updates? Have there been any exciting new features added to the drone? Not really, no. And that's okay, but I mean, I was used to DJI when they would drop a drone and then a month later you'd have a new feature, a couple of months later you'd have another new feature. And that was the exciting part. I love that aftermarket care. But for whatever reason, DJI seem to be releasing a drone and it's almost fully finished, which is great as well. There's positives to that, but there's also that excitement of owning a product and getting a brand new update with added features. That hasn't really been the case with the Mini 2. There've been a few tiny upgrades, but nothing major since the original release. Now, this guy here is the original Mavic Mini. I know, it looks the same. Oh, it pretty much is the same. It's almost like they released this guy, it had software limitations, then they released this guy, and they removed those limitations. If you look at everything, the build quality, the camera, the sensors on it, everything about it, it is almost identical. They've clearly put limitations on this, waited, and then released this drone and made it 4K capable. It really does feel like that's the case, which is a little bit disappointing for the people that originally bought this, and then they released this with the 4K capable camera. That's really frustrating for people who didn't wait for the Mini 2, and it only took, I think it was a year or so, until they released the Mini 2. So for people who had this drone and absolutely loved it, they then released the exact same drone, almost identical in every single capacity, every single feature of it, the build quality, the sensors, like I said, the camera is even clearly the same camera. It's pretty much the same drone, but this one has 4K and it has a little light on the front that you can change. I think that's what annoyed people so much about it. You know, if we knew that that was coming, people would have waited. They wouldn't have got the Mavic Mini, they would have waited, spent that little bit of extra, got the 4K camera and the improved controller. You know, that's the most disappointing thing about it. And I think, you know, when I reflect on my experiences with the drone, I've been happy with the Mavic Mini. I loved it when I picked it up. It was revolutionary. It still is revolutionary for its size. It feels like a relatively cheap drone. Like, the materials they've used are very plasticky. They're very lightweight. Obviously, they're keeping it under 250 grams. It's a cheap feeling drone. And for DJI, that's quite uncommon. Like, if you've used any of their other drones, their build quality is top notch. So to feel something that felt relatively, that was terrifying. I just dropped the drone. But, you know, I guess they're built to last, I hope. Who knows? It's probably broken next to me. Back to this, I guess the fact that I've used so many DJI drones and I felt the build quality of this and I could feel that it was cheap and light and weak. And, you know, it's not weak to the point that I can snap it, like I can put pressure on it. But for example, the back flap, that back door there feels really cheap. It feels like a cheap drone in that regard. You can also look at certain things like this little foam kind of insert here that covers up the cable. Like, they've clearly made it the cheapest production they could, and that's completely fine because they're keeping it under that weight. But I guess it is something that is light and cheap. And with that being said, it doesn't handle the wind extremely well. Like, it does a great job most of the time. I've had no issues with it, but I have had a few issues when there's a relatively strong wind and I'm trying to fly back. it doesn't cut through the wind as well as I'd want it to. So with a drone of this size and this weight, I actually am really careful of when I fly it and when I take it far away from me. So if I'm taking it, let's say 400, 500 meters away from me, I don't feel comfortable because I know that this thing takes a while to come back. So I'm really aware of that, and I make sure I've got well and truly enough time to fly back, because there have been times I've been flying, and even if I'm flying, you know, like the wind's coming on the side, for example, and I'm trying to fly back, it's not flying back fast at all. And I've got it in sports mode and it just doesn't come back fast enough. And it's because it just can't handle the wind as well. But they definitely improved it on the Mini 2. I don't know how they did that, but it has a slightly improved wind resistance to it. I have no idea how, whether the motors are more efficient, but it does definitely have a slightly improved performance in the wind when you look at the Mini 2 compared to the original Mavic Mini. When you look at the different intelligent flight modes on the Mini 2, it has a bunch of modes. So you've got droney, you've got helix, rocket, circle, and boomerang. So alongside the photo options and the video options, you also have some intelligent flight modes. And then within the photo options, you have panorama mode. So you've got the wide panorama, you've got 180-degree photos, which look really nice. And then you've got the sphere photos as well, which are kind of like those 360-degree photos that you can, you know, almost take a photo, and then when you've got it on your phone, you can move around and almost interact with that photo in almost like an augmented reality, I guess, because you can actually physically move your phone and the photo will move with your body movement. So that's a really cool thing. It's a little bit gimmicky, and you know, I don't know how many people actually care about that, but it's nice that there's a bunch of features on the Mini 2. The camera on the Mini 2 is also extremely capable. You know, it's a 4K 30 FPS camera, it's a 3-axis gimbal, and it can capture 12 megapixel stills. It's got all of those different features and over a 30-minute flight time. So again, extremely capable and a nice complementary drone. If you've already got another drone, this could be a fun, smaller drone to get those nice tight shots through different gaps and to really play around with it. Like, I see this as more of a fun experimental drone, and it's still, like I said, extremely capable. The video quality is fantastic, but it's definitely more of a toy compared to the other higher end drones out there. When you look at the Mavic Mini camera though, it's pretty much identical. There's really no difference. The only difference is that it says 4K on the Mini 2, where this one says nothing on it. But besides that, it's the same size camera, same size sensor. It's a 12 megapixel sensor, the same 3-axis gimbal technology. Honestly, again, I know I keep repeating it, but there is no difference. It's clearly a software limitation. And I think, you know, even the original Mavic Mini is extremely capable at 2.7K video. It's got that 12 megapixel again, so the photos are the same as the Mini 2. It's the same camera system. But I think, you know, for those slight improvements, that slight increase in quality, and definitely the improvement when it comes to the range and the controller, the Mini 2 does definitely stand out as an improvement over the original Mavic Mini. So I think it's kind of at that point where if you've owned a drone, if you've got yourself like a Mavic Pro, or even like a, you know, I guess a Spark, for example, or maybe, you know, like a Mavic Air, then this could be a really nice upgrade. It's a fun tool to have in your kit. Like I said, really easy to get those nice tight shots. It's also extremely capable. It's portable, it can fit in your pocket, and it's a fantastic drone. So I think the Mini 2 is really phenomenal for most people. If you want to upgrade from the Mavic Mini, yeah, sell that thing and get this. Otherwise, if you have an older drone and you don't use it as much, and maybe you would find some more joy with something smaller that you could have more fun with, it's more kind of agile and you can fly through little interesting spots, put it in FPV mode, for example, then the Mini 2 might be the perfect complementary drone for you, or the perfect upgrade. So I guess that's it. No major upgrade from the original Mavic Mini in terms of like the hardware of it. It's clearly the same thing. They've just obviously limited the software, but I think it's a really great drone, and I've been impressed with the Mini 2 overall. It's a fantastic drone from DJI, and it's innovative that they could create something that's under 250 grams that can shoot 4K video. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to have a fantastic day, and peace out.